Hello and welcome, I'm Mystical, this is Mystical Gaming. Get yourself a cuppa, we're jumping into Watch Your Realms. And I got Iovar's exclusive the other day, which was really nice, really happy with that. And I thought I'd have a play around with it, look how it works, that sort of thing. So the gear we've got him in, let's just jump me out of the way a little bit. There we go. We've just gone for stuff with attack on it and a no crit rate. So I wanted to keep the crit rate at 0, we've done that. And that way the numbers are much easier to work with, that's essentially it. It just makes life a little bit easier for me when I'm working stuff out. I don't have a set on him that modifies his damage, so that's all taken care of as well. He's got another set that only does HP and defense. So that's essentially how he's booked up and how he works. And I thought I'd have a look at how he works with his exclusive versus the other sort of artifacts there. So I've just chucked him into the Nightmare Gear dungeon, and I've got him in Spirit Siphon, then I'm going to try him in Claw, then I'm going to try him in his exclusive. Now his exclusive I've only got up to level 10, stage 10, so I thought I would try with the other ones at stage 10 as well and see how that sort of goes. Now I was really happy when I got his exclusive artifact. I thought absolutely brilliant. I was really happy with it. So I've tried it out and I'm less impressed with the results I've got than I was sort of hoping for. So he's done about 3.3 million per run on the Spirit Siphon. He's done about the same again with the Claw. So I've tried him with his own artifact on, again that's level 10. I sort of my idea was to sort of gauge where his artifact and what sort of level of other artifacts I sort of needed. So was it better than maybe a level 16 Spirit Siphon, or was that the sweet spot to swap over, that sort of thing. So we've had a look to see how it goes really, and there's the damage there. Now it's pretty much of a muchness, to be honest. So he's done about 3.3 million damage there. If that's quick image of what he's done with all of them. So he done 3.38 with Siphon, 3.29 with Claw, and then 3.37 with his exclusive. It wasn't as good as I was hoping. So there is the caveat attached to this that the further you go up in the game, the higher the defenses are, and that defense, that's where the penetration is really going to come in for him. So there is that to be said for it as well. So all of these are done at not low level. I think this is Nightmare 3 or 4 that we're sort of testing it on. So it's not bottom of the range with defense, but I probably was hoping for a bit more out of it. So I thought I'd have a look at sort of what's going on, how it works, and why. So I've gone with Bloodborne Signet. It's level 10. The reason we've gone with it is it reduces HP and it ups crit damage. Well, we haven't got any crit rate, so the crit damage isn't going to be affected. And then we've got the attack on there, which is fine because we'll be able to see what the attack is. And we'll be able to, the numbers should correspond. So the first hit is 4,708 damage. There we go. We can put that up on the screen there, and that's his basic damage. He deals 60% damage to one enemy 2 times, prioritising airborne units. That's his basic, and that's the damage he does for it. So that's all good. I suppose we now know what it does, and we now know what it hits for, and then we can go on and see what the next one does. So his next ability or next abilities coming up, we just roll it through, put a healer down there for him as well, just to make sure that he stays alive and he's not killed before the end of it, because that would mess everything up. So if we have a look, he's got 2 swords. You can see them just on his back there, and they will fan out as he gets more and more. They sort of fan out around him till you get a complete circle of 12 of them around him. But you can see there he's got the 2 swords up there, and whilst it's not important at the moment, it is important next run through with his exclusive. So we want to make sure that we know what we've got and where it is. So there we go, and then that's his ultimate going off. Sorry. So that's his ultimate. Consumes all flying swords, the bits around the back of him, activates flying sword formation to continuously deal 40% damage. So his damage takes a bit of a knockback, to be honest, during his ultimate, but he does this continuous damage, goes on for 3 seconds, to the enemy with the lowest HP in range. The frequency of the strikes increases with the number of flying swords. Remember, that's the swords around the back that you can see of him, reaching up to 60 strikes with 12 flying swords. So bear in mind, if you're doing Lords with sticks, you want to make sure that he's got the full 12 on the back before you fire off his ultimate, because you're going to get more hits then, because that's the important part of Lord of Sticks. There we go. Right, so mark down the damage he does, and off we go. We can carry on to the next part of the fight. So that's his ultimate triggering off, and there's a bit of a sort of drop down in damage, but you know, it is what it is. Then he does this hit, which we're going to swiftly ignore for a bit. That doesn't help us. That hit at all. There's his next hit. Now we know what this is. So upon casting the ultimate, reduces the attack interval, so his speed's going to be reduced by 20%, so he's actually going to be attacking a little bit faster, okay? And each attack deals 75% damage 3 times. That's not strictly true, that statement. It's each basic attack deals 75% damage 3 times, because his basic attack and his ultimate are completely different. The ultimate isn't part of his basic attack, it's not an enhanced basic attack or anything like that. It's a completely separate unit, okay? So don't go put an Infernal Roar on him, you're not going to get it during his ultimate, okay? If you want to check it yourself, go and put him in a team with Volker and you'll be able to see it going off, okay? This effect lasts for 10 seconds, okay? Now, if an ultimate consumes 12 flying swords, to the duration of this effect will extend for 5 more seconds, okay? So you can get 10 to 15 seconds out of this passive that he's got on the go, if you've got all 12 flying swords. So that's the damage he's doing, and we can see it all noted down. Absolutely brilliant, and we've covered all of that with the exception of the 7090. That's a bit, we'll come on to that in a minute. And then after that, you can see that passive has dropped off and he's gone back down to his 4,700 part there. So all working as we sort of pretty much expect. Now we're going to go and swap that out. We'll put his exclusive on, and then we can sort of see what the exclusive does and how it sort of interacts with his skills. Now we know what his skills sort of do, with the exception of that bonus bit of damage, but we'll cover that now. So what happens and where did that bonus damage come from? Well, it comes from this. He's got another passive, okay? So after an allied marksman casts an ultimate, gains 1 flying sword. That needs to be a full stop there. That is one statement which happens, and that's it, done. Then there's another statement. And following 3 basic attacks of the hero, ignore extra 30% defense. Not strictly true. When he casts his ultimate, the next following basic attacks ignore the 30%. It's not when anyone does it. So that's not strictly true. I might stick something in about it and we'll see if we can get it changed so it actually reads correctly. But that isn't true. It's not when any allied marksman casts, because you could stagger off ultimates and he'd be constantly getting this 30%. That doesn't happen. It's when he casts his ultimate. The different things entirely, okay? So bear that in mind. Right, so that's the first bit that you have to be aware of. The next bit is, now we know that it happens when he casts his ultimate. It happens in conjunction with this upon casting the ultimate thing, okay? So upon casting his ultimate, remember, he's going to do this bigger points of damage. So those attacks there will then get the 30% defense as well, okay? But it's only the 3 attacks, which is why you saw the 7090, 7090, and then it went down to 5884. That's why it changed. So you get that step of it, and it's because of this passive here that's worded badly, gets tied in with this passive here as well, okay? So bear in mind, both of these are working together, and that's what actually changes his That's what changes his damage just after his ultimate is finished. Remember, that ultimate goes on for 3 seconds. Okay, so that's actually what happens with him. Right, so we're going to put his exclusive on. Now remember, his exclusive increases single target damage by 15%. So what we're going to do is we can get all those numbers, we'll put them on the left hand side of the screen, we'll multiply them up by 115, which will give us our 15% extra, and we'll put that on the right hand side of the screen, and then we'll be able to see original damage, 115% damage, okay, which is our extra 15% for ultimate. Okay, now when the ultimate is activated, each flying sword grants 1% penetration for 5 seconds. Okay, so let's have a look at that all in action then, what that really means for us. There we go. Right, so there's our old scores up. So 4,780 becomes the 5,418, which we're hitting for. We all know that, so we're happy with that, and that's working just as we expected. Now we can see down there we've got 2 swords up, okay, 2 swords above him, which is what we expected, and we can trigger off his ultimate. Now his ultimate is now doing 3,659 as opposed to 3,609, which is what we expected it to do. Now the reason for this is all because of his exclusive. So remember, his exclusive, it was single target damage, we had 2 swords up, so we got 2% penetration, and that's given us a plus 50 on our hits. Okay, so we're getting 25 damage per hit is what we're actually getting when we go and do that. So that's why his ultimate is actually a little bit higher than what we are predicting. And roll this forward a touch, and then we were actually able to see the next hits coming through. So remember now that we're expecting, there we go, there's the hit there. Now remember, this is that passive where he's done his ultimate and the first and second passive. So he's done the one where he's done his ultimate where he gets the penetration, the ignore defense 30%, as well as he's actually doing this extra damage as well. Okay, so he's getting both of those, and also this is also a little bit weird. So we would expect it to be 8,154, but we're actually getting much closer to what we're getting, 8,245. So although it says here penetration also includes basic attack, whereas actually in the description it just says the flying swords. It's not the flying swords as well, it's that basic attack also gets that penetration as well. Okay, so you've got 2% penetration added on to this as well. So it doesn't say that, so his artifact is actually mildly better than you initially think. So that's where that attack comes from, and that's where that extra bonus bit of damage comes from. So, and then we're back into the normal realms of it. Everything's dropped off, and then we're back down to, there's a rounding issue there, but that's essentially it. There we go. That's pretty much what he does. And the reason his artifact, I feel, isn't particularly good. I think 1% penetration per sword isn't great, and it's the timing's only 5 seconds, and when he does his ultimate, that's his minimum damage. He does a lot of it, there is a continuous attack, but it is only for 3 seconds, and the exclusive is only for 5 seconds, so you don't get very long with it. So if we clear everything off, we'll have a look. So what we get is when we fire off the ultimate, okay, ultimate gets fired off, that's the first thing that happens. That triggers our passive. Okay, so our passive, on casting the ultimate, and then that goes on for 10 seconds. We've got that 10-second bit there, then goes on, passive duration 10 seconds, unless we've got the 12 swords, where if we have, then we've got on another 15 seconds. So it's 10 to 15 seconds. That happens at the same time. Now, I need to get me out of the way, me over there, because what also happens when the ultimate gets triggered is the artifact is triggered at the ultimate, okay, but the artifact only goes on for 5 seconds. That is all it goes on for. Artifact duration is just 5 seconds, and that's the downside to it and why you don't get much. I mean, penetration's nice, and as you go up further in difficulty, it will give you slightly more bang for your buck. But will it outperform level 25 Siphon? I don't think so. I will keep mine in Siphon. I might run a Semram run with him and see what happens, but essentially I don't think it's good enough to outdo a level 25 Siphon and 25 claw, I will stick with those. If I get another 5, absolutely brilliant, because when it's level 25 it will outperform them, but I don't think it outperforms them by enough to be an issue. Now maybe later on there'll be some high defense things coming in and then it would be better. The other thing to bear in mind is that his damage increase is constant. You just get it straight away. You don't have to be on the same target or move target. But then the big bosses don't swap over, so that's not really an issue for you. Maybe in some other parts of gameplay you might find you favour it with some burst damage like arena and that sort of thing. You might favour it because you're swapping those targets over, so maybe your spirit siphon won't be as good then, because you're going to drop and then you've got to keep attacking the same person. But for me, it's not as good as I hoped, I think. There we go. That's the answer. It's not as good as I hoped for. I was hoping for a bit more. Maybe if the duration had matched Victorious Pursuit, then it would be, no, maybe busted, but there we go. That's essentially it. That's my take on it. That's how it works and why it works. Whether that's good for you or not, I don't know. But his ultimate isn't part of his basic attack either, so he doesn't get the extra damage from Victorious Pursuit either. So it's all a bit clunky, I think, and not fantastic. So there we go. I really hoped for it, and when I got it, wasn't as good as I hoped for. Never meet your heroes. There you go. Right, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for your time. If you could leave me the old thumbs up, like and subscribe. I've got some other things to look at and play about with and test to see how we go. Okay, right, thank you very much. Cheers. Goodbye.